Welcome to WTF News. Tonight, we have an exciting story for you all. On October 2nd, journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed in Istanbul, Turkey. Jamal was visiting the Saudi Consulate in Istanbul, but according to his fiancée, who was accompanying him waiting outside, he never returned. The Saudi state government initially denied this ever occurring and said that Khashoggi returned home safely. But they later changed their statement to say that Khashoggi was killed in a fight. Khashoggi was a prominent critic of the Saudi state government, and Turkish officials have said that this was actually a purposeful killing, and that they have evidence now that this was ordered and orchestrated by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. In response, the Saudi government claimed that this act was committed by rogue agents who were acting without approval from the government. And now they decided to fire 18 government officials and 2 aides to the prince. The response to this event has been on an international scale. Turkey, the UK, France, and Germany have all condemned this act, but many of them still continue to engage in arms deals with the Saudis. President Trump himself has noted deception and lies in their statement, but has also stated that he wishes to protect economic ties for arms deals with the Saudis. This case brings up several interesting questions. Why was Khashoggi murdered? Why have the Saudis been targeting critics of the Crown Prince? And why has the international community reacted the way it has? To answer these questions, we brought in several experts in the field of criminology. So for our first expert, we have Dr. Rob Berry. Dr. Berry is a Princeton sociologist and expert in deterrence criminology. So Dr. Berry, I have a couple questions for you. So why did the Saudis do this?
Well, the best way to explain what the Saudis did is through rational choice theory. The idea is the Saudis looked at their options. They considered the pros and cons of eliminating this journalist and realized that they would benefit a lot by silencing a critic of the Crown Prince and likely would receive no blowback from the international community. Thus, we can tell that an act like this was premeditated, and the Saudis made a rational choice in deciding to do this.
Interesting. And why do you think they targeted Khashoggi in particular?
This is well explained by routine activities theory. Essentially, Khashoggi was an easy target in the wrong place at the wrong time. Looking at Khashoggi, there are 3 factors that make someone an easy target for a criminal. You need a motivated offender, first off, and the Saudis were clearly motivated, as Khashoggi was a dissident journalist and harshly critical of the Crown Prince. Second, you need a vulnerable target. Khashoggi was 60 and could not fight back, an easy target. And he had to come to the Saudi embassy to get his documentation to get married. And finally, you need a lack of a guardian. Once again, Khashoggi had to come to the embassy where he was not protected, and thus an easy target.
Thank you, Dr. Rob Berry.
Thank you.
Our next expert is Dr. Ivan Delise, professor at Stanford University and renowned expert of sociological criminology.
So, Dr. Delise, why do you think the Saudis committed this crime?
This can be explained by 2 theories. One is Ferguson and Aker's theory of differential reinforcement. And this says that humans are rational, and they're basically blank slates, and they're motivated to continue actions if they're rewarded for them. If they're punished for them, then they're dissuaded from these actions. So in this case, the Saudis are motivated by the fact that they can keep silencing these critics. There's no punishment at all. They get all rid of all this bad press. And the world does nothing about it, so there's no punishment to stop them. Second of all, you also look at this other theory known as Turk's criminalization of resisting subordinates. And what this says is basically there are certain groups of people who think that they're dominant and they see themselves as above other people, they accept the rules. And there's also an inferior group, which is the majority of everyone else, who are supposed to listen to this dominant group. But occasionally there are these resistors. In this case, it would be Khashoggi. But the problem is the dominant group sets the rules. They actually criminalize anyone that resists. And it's especially true when there's a huge power differential in this case, when it's the government. So in this case, they ended up actually criminalizing the resistor Khashoggi.
Thank you, Dr. Delise.
Thanks. Our next guest is Dr. Jay Walking, an expert in social learning theories. He's here to explain to us why we're seeing such mixed signals from the Saudi government. So, Dr. Walking, what are the Saudis doing now?
What the Saudis are doing now is trying to deflect blame. And this is a classic example of neutralization and drift theory. So there's 5 main ways people try and deflect blame that this theory suggests. The first is by denying responsibility. And the Saudis, of course, first claimed that Khashoggi left the embassy unharmed, then later claimed that it was rogue agents not affiliated with Saudi Arabia. The second is by denying injury, and Saudi Arabia claimed that he left the embassy unharmed, saying they didn't hurt anybody. The third is by trying to turn the victim into a justifiable target, and the argument behind this would be that Khashoggi had committed treason or some other crime, and Saudi Arabia was attempting to extradite him to face criminal charges. The fourth is by appealing to a higher loyalty, and this basically means they need a good reason for what they did, and that would be something like Khashoggi was a threat to the safety of the crown prince. And the fourth is condemning the condemners, and that would look like Saudi Arabia claiming that Turkey had messed up the investigation and blaming Turkey.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Walking.
Thank you.
Our final guest is Dr. Crimes Johnson. Dr. Johnson is a sociologist at Duke University and an expert in labeling theories.
So, Dr. Johnson, what has the international community's response been to this assassination?
So the international response has been both shame and condemnation. And you can look at this through Braithwaite's theory of shaming. And basically, there's kind of two ways this could go. One is the reintegrative process, where the Saudis could actually end up feeling remorse for their actions, and by correcting their path of what they've done, they can hope to reintegrate with the rest of the world. Or, they could go down this disintegrative path. And basically what that might look like is the Saudis might actually end up disintegrating themselves from the rest of the world, further stigmatizing themselves, and then they're actually going to end up going down this path of wrongness and keep assassinating these journalists.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.